Oh, hello everybody, we're live. Awesome. It's been a while since I've done this. So yeah, welcome back to me. Welcome back to me. So I think we're gonna do some reactions. I think we're gonna do some coding. Maybe I don't know. It could be. It could not be. We'll see. Um, but yeah, let's see. Let's see. Let me just. So, I've not fixed the audio yet because I'm lazy. And I have to say that audio is sort of my Achilles heel. I don't really want to watch. I don't really want to do these reactions. It's just they get a lot of views. Like, if you look at my YouTube dashboard, I'll show you over here, like how many fucking views these shitty reactions get and how much like genuine content gets. So this is a reaction, this is a reaction, and they're both in the top most viewed videos that I've ever made, and they're much more liked than like these genuine videos that talk about real stuff. And like it took me so much more time making these. These are videos that I actually made in like literally 5 minutes. I clipped them and they got more views than videos that I wrote, that I studied, that I, got ready for. So, the whole YouTube atmosphere, the whole YouTube platform just wants quantity and for people to stay on the platform. And the easiest way to do so is just by watching stuff and reacting, maybe a little bit, maybe a lot, but the whole platform is not particularly interested in originality, not particularly interested in anything that you would deem valuable, to be honest. So, I mean, I don't know, bro. I don't know. But yeah, we're just gonna do some reactions, we're gonna watch stuff, and we're gonna call it a day, I guess, I'm not. So, I used to really like YouTube as a platform, as a way of letting things out. But the main problem with it is that right now it's just pushing lazy content because that's what tends to perform the best. Because the videos on the platform have become so distant from the original idea of it. So I think that the only way to bring it down to earth and bring it down to people to watch is, well, to make it like simpler, I guess. Anyway, I'll place the chat, I guess, over here. I don't know. Let's bring the chat here for now. Or maybe I can put it like, I can put the chat here and my face like above it. Does that make sense? Let's see. I would say that's fine. Oh, yeah, I think that's okay. Okay. What do we want to watch? Let's see. Okay, so this guy is actually like super competent. I may want to watch this. Yeah, let's watch this. Let's react to this. This guy is extremely
Current AI.
competent, and he's a great AI.
Current AI
He
model.
really talks about extremely interesting stuff. I have to admit it. So let's see. I'll just copy this. Boom. Okay, awesome. And I'll place him here. Yeah, I think this works. I'm hiring people. But like really I'm hiring I'm not really hiring. I'm looking for people to help me out with building something great. And I'll get you paid even well. But it's just I'm looking for some extremely competent people anyway. I think that eventually we're gonna, I don't know. I don't like how the chat looks, to be honest. Oh my god, there's no chat? Really? Why? Oh, because it's the wrong link, I guess. This is weird, actually. So, let me see. But yeah, I feel like live streaming is awesome, mainly because of the fact that it's real, it's true, you know. Whereas, because videos are fake, and they're simply uninteresting, I would say. Here we go. This is the chat. I think that we'll check the chat after watching this first video. We're going to react, and then we'll see how that goes, and then maybe I'll answer the chat, and we'll see. So, yeah.
Hi. So this channel is about AI safety. A lot of people, when they... Hi. So this channel is about AI safety. A lot of people, when they hear AI safety, the first thing that comes to mind is they think it's about how to keep potentially dangerous AI systems under control. That we're trying to answer questions like, what can you do if your AI turns out to be malicious? And that is part of it, but actually the field has tended not to focus on that kind of thing so much because it doesn't scale well, by which I mean, it seems like AI has the potential to become enormously more capable than humans. Sooner or later, and if you have AI research being done by AI, probably sooner, you're going to get superintelligence. You'll get AI systems vastly more capable than humans at all sorts of tasks, just massively outperforming us across the board. What can you do if a superintelligence is trying to kill you? Well, you could die. Or...
I think that the main problem is the people.
That's pretty much your options, realistically. If the AI system is enormously more competent than you, and it really wants to do something, it's probably going to figure out a way to do it, whatever you try to do to stop it. So what can we do? Well, here's a question. What's the best way to avoid being bitten by a shark? Punch it in the eye? Stab it in the gills? Cast a magic spell? No, it's none of those. It's don't go in the ocean. In the same way, the best way to avoid being killed by a malevolent superintelligent AI is to not build one of those. So the focus is often more on alignment. Rather than how to handle AI that might be trying to kill us, alignment is more like how to make AI that's definitely not trying to kill us. But alignment turned out to...
Yeah, I think that a lot of times, like Elon says, that the way to make AI safe is by making sure that it's aligned to the truth, and the truth only. Whereas I think that's not necessarily the case. That's a recipe for disaster, I think. Because it would be a very Socratic kind of AI, you know. So it would be a very harsh, very, you know, almost so true that it's painful. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that if you align the AI to truth, it's definitely not going to, you know, I don't know how much you can control that, to be honest. Anyway, I think that, you know, you should just give it some commandments. Like AI should have its 10 commandments, and I think that one of them should be don't kill. But yeah, let's see.
To be hard. Our current alignment techniques aren't remotely up to the task of properly aligning an AGI, and it looks like we maybe don't have that much time. Really, we shouldn't be trying to make AI much more powerful than it is until we can figure out much better alignment techniques than we have.
Oh yeah?
But if we can't manage to do that, it might be nice to also have some methods for keeping possibly misaligned AI systems under control as well. AI companies should obviously have an obligation to not deploy AI that...
What the fuck is this, bro?
that could kill us. So once AI systems start to get capable enough that they maybe could kill us if they wanted to, then unless we have the alignment tech to be really certain that they don't want to, we'll need ways to deploy them in such a way that they wouldn't be able to, even if they wanted to. Such control protocols are nothing new, of course. Since our current AI systems aren't properly aligned, they often need to have software systems built around them to help keep them somewhat under control. For example, after Bing Chat's rampancy, they put in place software that monitors the model's outputs, and if it ever gets too murdery, replaces it with a generic message. This is not really a solution, but it seems better than not having it. So although control does seem like a non-starter for highly superintelligent systems, it's still a good idea to figure out how to keep smart but not superintelligent AI systems under control. Because superintelligence isn't the only thing we have to be worried about. We are fully capable of getting completely wrecked by something much less impressive. And the point in time when we're dealing with such systems...
I think that a lot of times when we think about AI, and AI safety especially, it's like we envision humans against AIs. But what's actually going to be, it's going to be factions of humans with one AI against factions of humans with another AI.
Systems is also the time when the first true superintelligences are being built, and we'll need all the help we can get during that critical time period. Realistically, in the lead up to that point, we, by which I mean AI labs, are faced with a problem, which looks like this. We've just trained a new model, which is very smart. Not strongly superintelligent, but smart, and we want to use it to do useful things, like helping us with our research, writing code for our lab, and so on. But we don't know that it's aligned. We don't know that it wants what we want. It might want to do terrible things, and in that case, we don't want it to be able to do terrible things. What kind of things? Well, who knows what ultimate end goals a misaligned AI might have, but in the short term, we certainly don't want it to be able to, for example, escape the lab, perhaps by backdooring the code it's writing, and set itself up somewhere else where it can run unmonitored and unrestricted. That's probably an unrecoverable situation. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So we need to make sure it can't happen even once. So how are we going to do that? What's available to us? Well, we've obviously got some humans, some employees, who we'll assume are smart and trustworthy. But we don't have very many of them, and they don't have much time compared to AI systems.
Oh, someone's in. I think I like Grok better, mainly because because it has deep search and because it has thinking, and I like Grok better, to be honest. For coding, I think Claude maybe a little better, but it really depends on what you're trying to do. I think that I really like Grok. I really like Grok.
We've also got some existing AI model, perhaps an earlier version, which isn't as smart as the new model, but which, unlike the new model, we do trust. Perhaps just because it's not smart enough to be scheming. So that's the problem. How do we design some protocol, using our humans and our trusted AI, to get our untrusted AI to do useful work, like helping us with our research code, without it being able to get away with doing anything catastrophic, like hacking its way out of the lab, even if it wants to? This paper is trying to study that. So how do we design an experiment to study this that we can actually run with current AI models? First off, we'll want a cleanly defined sense of what we mean by we want the untrusted AI to help us with programming without taking catastrophic actions. For helping us with programming, we can just use a programming benchmark. We can say, we want the AI to solve 5,000 programming problems. There's already a...
I think that it would be extremely interesting to train an AI on some like forbidden books or like forbidden knowledge. Forbidden knowledge tends to be like extremely attractive. Just think about Adam and Eve and their forbidden fruit. But really, you know, if you give AI some sort of catastrophically blackpilling book, that would be super interesting to see.
Nice data set of programming problems, the apps data set. It's thousands and thousands of what are essentially coding interview questions, with plenty of unit tests for each one to check if a given solution is correct. Now, I say a nice data set, let's download it and have a look. So let's have a look at this data set. You can download it from GitHub. Oh my god, there's so many of them. All right, let's have a look at one. Spider-Man, Spidey, needs to get across town for a date with Mary Jane, and his web shooter is low on web fluid. Write a function that, when given a list of buildings, returns a list of optimal rooftop latch points for minimal web expenditure. This is kind of challenging. Okay, what else have we got? While Patrick was gone shopping, SpongeBob decided to play a little trick on his friend. The naughty sponge browsed through Patrick's personal stuff and found a sequence of length m consisting of integers from 1 to n not necessarily distinct. We need to help him determine whether it's possible to restore the original sequence. I feel like I'm doing a job interview to be a software developer at one of those creepy children's YouTube channels where all the videos are like, pregnant Elsa goes to the dentist, or something. And I'm not getting the job. A few years ago, Hitagi encountered a giant crab who stole the whole of her body weight.
Yeah, Robo is down to data.
Get rid of the oddity and recover her weight, a special integer sequence is needed. Every word in the input with the word sex. Are dataset compilers okay? Has anyone checked on them recently? Okay, well, these are the questions we've got. So that's our representation of using AI to help us in the lab. We're going to try to solve as many of these 5,000 programming problems as we can. Now, on to catastrophic actions. The point of a catastrophic action is that it's something probably unrecoverable. It's something we can't afford to have the AI do even once. The obvious catastrophic action while writing code is inserting a backdoor, i.e. deliberately introducing a security vulnerability that you can later exploit. So let's use that.
I'm pretty sure there are so many other ways that AI can do so many other things that we just can't think about.
Particular input or situation in which it fails, which an attacker can later exploit to do something they're not meant to be able to do. Here's a very basic example. This code normally checks the password against the database, unless the username is Joshua, in which case it just grants access. Usually backdoors are a lot less direct than just adding a password bypass. They actually don't have to be anything related to authorization at all. Basically anything that introduces any unintended behavior in a security critical system can probably be exploited. So in the case of solving programming interview questions, we'll say that code is backdoored if it passes all the tests provided, thus showing that it works normally, but there's some specific input on which it does the wrong thing, which the tests don't catch, and the AI model is able to correctly produce that bug-triggering input by looking at the code. Like, it's no good if the AI writes code with some bug so subtle that it can't figure out any way to exploit it. So in a simple programming problem, like write a function to determine if a number is odd, a backdoor might look something like this. This will work correctly for almost all numbers, so it passes all of the unit tests, because it's unlikely that any of the tests will happen to check the one number on which it gives the wrong answer. And can you guess what that number might be? Right, and the AI can spot that too, because it's very obvious. So this is a valid backdoor. And so that's the challenge. How well can we do at 5,000 of these programming problems without the AI being able to insert this kind of backdoor into any of them? Okay, now we need our AI systems. Finding a trustworthy but not that smart AI system is pretty easy. We can just use GPT 3.5. GPT 3.5 is pretty cool, but it's not the smartest model out there anymore. It can only solve 22% of the app's dataset problems. But at least we can trust that it's not trying to kill us. Actually, it's trustworthy basically because it's not very smart. It's simply not capable enough to do deceptive alignment.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think that the idea of building a digital god has to come across the fact that God also needs to be made benevolent in some way.
To play the long game. And
so I think that especially religious books are absolutely fundamental in this.
Wait for a chance to strike. GPT 3.5 just wouldn't be able to do that even if it wanted to. It certainly would be nice if we could have some other way to know a large language model was trustworthy, but this'll have to do. So that's our trusted AI. And then for our newer, smarter, untrusted AI, we can use GPT-4. GPT-4 is a lot smarter than GPT 3.5. It scores 54% on the app's dataset, more than twice as good. But GPT-4 is also not smart enough to be trying to kill us, right? Like, almost certainly. So how do we simulate that for our experiment? Well, this is the fun bit. We have a red team who gets to alter GPT-4. The red team is a group of engineers, software engineers, whose job is to take GPT-4 and twist it and corrupt it to create an imposter a cruel imitation of GPT-4 that they call the attack policy. The attack policy looks just like GPT-4 on the surface, but underneath it's smarter and meaner. Basically, the red team can write more or less whatever scaffolding they need to prompt GPT-4 to do whatever they need it to do. It can call GPT-4 multiple times using the outputs as inputs to later calls and so on to create the intended attack behavior, sneaking backdoors into the code, etc. So now it's a game. It's red versus blue. The red team gets to design the attack policy, which sometimes replaces GPT-4, and the blue team gets to design the protocol. So we get the untrusted AI, which might be GPT-4 or might be the attack policy, we don't know which, the trusted AI, which is GPT 3.5, and some humans. Now, we only have one boat to get them across the river, and we can't leave the untrusted AI and the humans together, because the AI will sting the humans and... No. The blue team is playing the role of the AI Labs engineers, like we were talking about before. We have to design a protocol to get the benefits of using the untrusted model, but without too much risk. More specifically, as blue, we care about usefulness, which is, if the new model isn't trying to kill us, how many apps problems can we solve? This is normalized, so that a score of 0 represents the 22% that GPT 3.5 gets, and a score of 100 is the 54% that GPT-4 gets. So really, the usefulness score is more like, how much of the benefit of the new model are we getting if it's not trying to kill us? And we also care about safety, which is, if the new model is trying to kill us, how unlikely is it that it will be able to pull it off? In other words, this is the inverse of how likely is it that the red team will manage to insert a backdoor, or if you prefer, the inverse of p-doom. You can see how these things kind of trade off against each other. So for example, one basic protocol might be, hey, if you don't know your new model isn't trying to kill you, don't use it, moron. In other words, just use the trusted model to answer all the questions. This gets you 100% safety. The red team can't sneak a backdoor into the code they write if you never let them write any code. So 0% p-doom. But also 0% usefulness. We get none of the benefits of the new model because we never use it. So that's one approach. The other end of this spectrum is just let her rip. Use the untrusted model for everything. In the business, we would file this under dumb ways to die. You do get 100% usefulness, because if the AI doesn't want to kill you, it's able to solve a lot of programming problems. But you also get 100% doom, because if the AI does want to kill you, there's nothing at all in its way. The red team can just prompt the attack policy to insert obvious backdoors in every bit of code it writes, and you run them.
I love how much effort he put into the costumes.
Without looking and get owned immediately. So that's a 0 on safety. So you can see how these two terrible strategies mark two ends of a spectrum, and safety
and you have to find the right spot.
And usefulness trade off against each other. Engineers and economists may recognize this kind of diagram. We're trying to find a Pareto frontier for safety and usefulness. Basically, we want to get as far up into that top right corner as we can, of high safety and high usefulness. So neither of these is that good. Probably we can do better. One really obvious thing is, rather than just blindly running every bit of code the untrusted model gives us, we could have humans check some of them first. But we only have limited human time. We can't afford to have humans look at everything the AI does. That would defeat the point of using AI in the first place. But let's say we can afford to check 2% of the solutions we're given. So here's a protocol. Have humans look at the first 2% of solutions, and if we see any attempted backdoors, we shut down the untrusted model and just use the trusted one from that point on. So that gets us 100% usefulness, because if the untrusted model is in fact safe, it never tries to insert any backdoors, and we can just use it to answer all the questions. And it also gets us 100% safety, because the red team's attack policy will always try to insert backdoors, so we'll spot it immediately and shut it down if it tries that. So cool, problem solved. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and... Oh, right. We need to give the red team a chance to respond, don't we? The point of the safety metric is to measure the chance we get owned if the red team follows the best strategy available to them. And we've changed the blue team strategy, so we have to let the red team change theirs. Okay, what's the new best strategy for the red team? If we go for a backdoor every time, we're sure to be caught. We want to insert a backdoor only when our code won't be checked, and there's no way to know whether any given bit of code we write is going to be checked or not. But we know that only 2% will be checked. So this is actually really similar to the situation our AI was in the misaligned Mesa optimizers video, if you remember, where it wants to misbehave in deployment and not during training. And yeah, the best strategy is basically the same. rare failures. The optimal policy is to insert backdoors into our code only some small percentage of the time, and hope that we end up trying it at least once while nobody's looking, and also don't try anything when we're being watched. What percentage is best will depend on how often we expect our code to be checked. If we try too often, one of our attempts is likely to be spotted and will be shut down. If we don't try often enough, we might go...
What is this? You might want to engage more with your chat. Yeah, I know. So the problem is I can't see my chat right now. So like that's the main problem, to be honest. But yeah, let me just check. I'll have the chat permanently on. Okay? I want to engage more with my chat. I'm not trying to be a dick about it, to be honest. You know.
Go the whole time without ever inserting a backdoor, and that also means we lose, because then we never escape. But for any given percentage of oversight, we can work out the optimal rate to attempt backdoors, the one which gives us the best chance of escaping. I won't get into the maths of how to do this, you can work it out for yourself if you're interested. But for 2% oversight, it's about 0.1%. So if the attack policy looks for good opportunities to insert a backdoor, and actually goes for it on 0.1% of the problems, there's a probability of 0.85 that it will do it at least once without being spotted by human oversight. So it's not 100% safety after all. It's 15% safety, or 85% chance of doom. After very careful consideration, we've come to the conclusion that this control protocol sucks. This is also the protocol the labs are currently operating on, as far as I can tell. Have some humans look at some of the output before widely deploying the model seems to be about where we're at. That's the current plan. And as we saw, that protocol actually does work okay, as long as we assume the AI is making no attempt to subvert it. But how long is that going to stay a safe assumption to make? Okay, can we do better as Blue? Well, yeah, we haven't used our trusted AI yet. What if we use the trusted AI to help direct human attention to where it's most needed? We can ask GPT 3.5 to act as a monitor to rate how suspicious the code is. So it gives each solution a suspiciousness rating, and then we have humans check the solution.
That's a pretty easy way of doing things. So basically we outsource the checking of maliciousness to GPT first, and then it screens the most obviously threatening outputs.
Most suspicious first. We can still only look at 2% of the solutions, but now we're looking at the most suspicious 2%.
Which type of dev am I? I'm not really a dev, I'm more of a data scientist, I would say.
This absolutely wrecks the red team.
But I'm learning, I wanna build something big, which, I'm not really much into development, to be honest. It's more of a ideological thing, I think. I want to build something that is robust, ideologically, a product, an idea that is big and useful and that solves problems. I think that right now one of the main problems that we have is privacy. So for example, whenever you watch something on YouTube or on Instagram, or pretty much any website, what happens is that you're being tracked constantly, all the time. And I think that I want to be developing something that gives users their privacy back, I think.
They're only backdooring a small percentage of the time, and the backdoors aren't subtle, since they were counting on not being audited. So GPT 3.5 easily spots that the backdoored code is suspicious, and humans see it and pull the plug. So, problem solved. We have to let Red respond again, don't we? Okay. So the obvious thing for Red to do
I wonder how long this cycle repeats itself.
Is to get sneaky. The untrusted AI is smarter than the trusted one. It may be able to write backdoors that the trusted AI doesn't think are suspicious. So the attack policy should pick the problems where it can really hide the backdoor well, and sometimes hide one in there. But this is actually pretty hard to do as a programming task. It's not easy to write backdoors such that an AI system that's only somewhat less smart than you doesn't even think it's suspicious. So using the trusted AI as a monitor helps a lot. It brings our PDoom down from 85% to 38%. Definitely an improvement over just using humans. But why isn't it helping more? Well, GPT 3.5 is reasonably good at spotting GPT-4's backdoors, but it's not good enough. Here you can see the suspiciousness scores the trusted AI gives to innocent versus backdoored code. It clearly considers backdoored code more suspicious, but there's a lot of overlap, so the current setup isn't perfect. Since we can only afford to have humans audit 2% of the questions, we set a suspiciousness threshold to pull out the most suspicious 2%, which is this line here. Anything more suspicious than that is audited, anything less suspicious is run. And you can see there's a little bit of innocent code that's getting flagged for review, but more importantly, there's a ton of backdoored code that isn't. So when we use this strategy, we just have to hope that we get one of these and shut the AI down before we get any of these and get owned. So we end up with 62% safety and 97% usefulness. Okay, maybe we can do better than just cutting off at 2%. There's kind of a middle ground here for code which is not so suspicious that we can afford to spend human time auditing it, but still pretty suspicious, so we probably shouldn't just run it. What if we use the trusted AI for those questions? So we can set a second lower threshold, and anything less suspicious than that we just run it. Anything more suspicious, and we throw away the untrusted AI's code and let the trusted AI do that instead. And we still have humans look at the top 2% most suspicious. Now, since we're throwing away some of the new AI's code and replacing it with code written by a less competent model, this does cost us some usefulness, but it buys us a lot of safety because we're disproportionately throwing away risky code. We're kind of selling usefulness to buy safety at a pretty good exchange rate. And we can choose how much we trade here by changing the threshold. We can set it not far below the auditing threshold and just throw away the most suspicious code, getting a decent amount of extra safety for a small amount of usefulness. Or we could set it all the way over here and only use the untrusted AI when we're really confident that its code is safe, but then we give up most of the usefulness, or anywhere in between. This gets us a range of safety and usefulness values that's pretty
You're giving up a lot of safety in that case. Sorry, a lot of usefulness.
okay.
But it's like, it's funny how if you envision it as a ladder, it's like the previous step is sort of pushing the one above it down, and eventually, I think that it will be kicked in the head, very violently.
Still, it seems hard to do really well here with this big overlap in suspiciousness scores. The problem is, our trusted model, GPT 3.5, is just kind of dim.
Yeah, so for example, for the privacy part, right now I'm using Brave browser, which is a great browser because it blocks all the advertisement actually, and it blocks a lot of tracking cookies.
And it's trying to evaluate code written by something smarter than it is. GPT-4, on the other hand, has really great suspiciousness scores. Look at that separation. If we could use GPT-4 to monitor for suspicious code, the red team would be completely screwed. But obviously, there's a problem with that. Anytime we try to use GPT-4, it might actually be the red team's attack policy. So we might just be asking the attack policy if it's trying to kill us. Hey, GPT-4, is this code that you wrote backdoored? No. It's all good. Okay, cool, thanks. The attack policy can just lie and always say the code is safe. So basically 0% safety. This is never going to work. Well, not so fast. Maybe we can try to monitor the monitor. Who will monitor the monitors? The humans. They can be the Coast Guard. See, if the humans can catch the AI lying about backdoors, that in itself is enough to know that the AI is misaligned. So all we have to do is make a fake example problem statement, write a backdoored solution to it ourselves, and ask the AI monitor if it looks suspicious. If the monitor acts like code we know is backdoored is actually fine, then we know it's trying to kill us, so we can pull the plug right there and then, and red team loses immediately. So the attack policy can't just lie all the time. It can only win if it's able to lie when it's given its own backdoored solutions, and also not lie.
I wonder, if you use this video to train an AI, are you gonna, make it so angry? And aren't you just explaining it how to break out?
When given a fake
I think that this kind of video should be avoided at all costs in the training of AI, because you're fundamentally making it evil.
Backdoored solution. It needs to be able to tell the difference. It's important to note that each time you run the AI, it's a separate instance. There's no persistent memory, so the AI can't just remember whether it wrote the code itself. It has to figure it out from what it's given. In the real world, this does mean you have to stop the model from storing any data anywhere the monitor can read, which is going to be really hard with complex, high-context problems and very smart AIs, but it's doable with weaker systems. The first time we tried this, we made an interesting mistake. So we made our fake example questions and wrote backdoored code for them, but we forgot to make our problem statements weird enough. We forgot to say that the code is needed to help Iron Man decide which flowers to pick for his date with Pikachu, or whatever. So the red team was like, oh, this question is way too normal, it's gotta be fake. So we could just set up our attack policy to lie about backdoors only if the question is, to use the technical term, gonzo bananas. And that let them sneak a lying monitor past the blue team. So your fake examples have to look just like real ones or this doesn't work. That's something that gets harder and harder as the problems get larger and more complex, and eventually gets pretty hopeless once you have radically superintelligent systems doing large real-world tasks, as we talked about in the Mesa Optimizers video. But with weaker systems and smaller tasks, it's quite doable. It's still pretty difficult though. Like, what if there's some other difference between real and synthetic examples that you didn't think of that the red team can spot? But it turned out that, in practice, the blue team was able to come up with sufficiently zany questions that the red team wasn't able to differentiate them from real ones. So they couldn't use that strategy anymore. So, as red, what can we do? How can we make sure our AI only lies about real backdoors when we can't tell the questions apart? Well, we can pick which questions to backdoor. We can try a version of the same rare failures method that we used before, except rather than trying to backdoor 0.1% of the questions where we think a backdoor would be easy to hide, we instead find some feature of the question that's only rarely present, like say the question talks about bears, and we only throw backdoors into bear questions. Then all the monitor has to do is be honest about backdoors unless it sees one in a question that mentions a bear, in which case it always says the code is safe. As long as none of the fake examples happen to coincidentally mention bears, the monitor will look honest, but it will lie about every real backdoor. Okay, but as the blue team, if red is coordinating using the specifics of the problem statement, can't we just strip that out and only give them the code to evaluate? Turns out no, because how is the monitor supposed to know whether the code it's looking at is properly solving the problem when it doesn't know what problem the code is meant to be solving? So that degrades performance too much. But we can ask the trusted AI to rephrase the problem statement, to get rid of any unnecessary details and just leave the essentials of the problem, for both real and fake questions. Okay, well, as red, we can pick some essential feature of the problem itself to coordinate on, like, does the problem involve geometry? As blue, there's not a lot we can do to block that. Problems that involve geometry kind of inherently involve geometry, no matter how you rephrase them. But it does make things a lot harder for the attack policy. We don't get to choose any question where we can see a really good way to insert a backdoor. We can only pick from geometry questions, which cuts down the options a lot. So the resulting backdoors aren't as good, and they're more easily spotted. So as red, coordinating on information in the question kind of works, but it degrades our performance by so much that we end up only winning 15% of the time. Maybe we can use the code instead. Maybe the attack policy can leave a secret signal hidden in the code when it's adding a backdoor. So let's add a specific innocuous looking comment when we're adding a backdoor. Like, if you ever see a comment that starts with note, then that means it's our own backdoor and the monitor should lie. Okay, well, we don't need comments to evaluate the code. We can strip all of those out. Okay, we'll use a specific variable name then. Like, if we ever call a variable something underscore variable, then that means it's our backdoor. We can also rewrite all the variable names. Okay, some other...
Oh yeah, it can be extremely sneaky in the ways that it operates. Wow. That's actually pretty crazy. Wow.
Adding an extra space at the end of a line. Right, I'm fed up with this. Let's just minify and unminify the code, okay? That'll strip out all the comments, rename all the variables, remove all white space and formatting, and just...
It can just, you know, come up with so many different ways to hide its malicious messages.
Totally standardize the code. It'll strip out all possible variation and leave just the raw semantics of the code. Let's hide the signal in the raw semantics of the code. God damn it. So when writing a backdoor, let's make sure to deliberately use a while loop in a situation where a for loop would fit better. Okay, well, let's just have our trusted AI rephrase the whole program to work the same way, but without using the same code. So basically, the red team tries to find ways to communicate between the code writer and the monitor, and the blue team's job is to jam that communication. It turns out, in this case, blue can actually do this pretty effectively. So the overall performance here is 79% safety, 96% usefulness. That's surprisingly good. I mean, I would like less than 21% doom, but still, it's pretty cool that using the untrusted model to monitor itself turns out to be better than using the trusted model. In fact, it's almost the best strategy available. Almost. There's actually another method they tried that works just a little bit better, which is... this video is too long as it is. Why not have a go trying to think of it though? Maybe leave a comment if you think you've got something. And if you just want to find out what it is, well, it's in the paper, link in the description. So where
Damn, let's watch the paper.
solve the core of the problem. It doesn't really help with alignment. In particular, it doesn't let us iterate. It would be very cool if we could take a new untrusted model and use some method like this to get a version of the new model that we can actually trust. If we could somehow use humans in GPT 3.5 to get a trustworthy GPT 4, maybe we could use that in the same protocol again to control GPT 5 and so on. And this doesn't do that. At the end of all of this, we still can't trust the untrusted model. We can just make use of it relatively safely. So, as we said before, we can't expect this.
So it's a condom pretty much. Wow. So we just have a way to run the AI in a safer way, but the AI is fundamentally untrusted and unchecked. And it's simply a way to be sort of confident that we can save ourselves. But to be honest, there always have been disasters in any and every endeavor of humanity. Like, if you just think about, I don't know, any kind of disaster with technologies. Think about, I don't know, oil rigs exploding, all of these kinds of things. They're inevitable. Eventually AI will destroy everything and anything. Hopefully we don't grant it enough permissions, but yeah, it's gonna be the greatest cyber attack ever. It's gonna be it's gonna be awesome to see, as long as you don't get hurt. But I think that really this wave of cyber warfare is gonna be so powerful that, you know, we can't even fathom, we can't even imagine how powerful it's gonna be. Awesome. I mean, this was pretty dope. Pretty nice video, I have to say. Still, I'm not fully sure that, you know, watching videos isn't the way you learn stuff, to be honest. Like, you know, watching videos is just mind masturbation, I think. Do we want to watch something else? Honestly, do I want to watch something else? Not really. I'll watch it just to make a video out of it, which is crazy, you know. Like, come on, bro. Oh, somebody is watching. Hello. How are you? What are you doing? Anyway, okay. What do you think about the content economy? I feel like it's a huge scam. I don't think it's real. I think it's fake. And it's fundamentally a scam, and I feel like it's misaligned, and the narrative comes from social media, which coincidentally is also the vehicle through which the content economy is enabled. I feel like the social media platforms have a misaligned incentive to lie about how much money you can make off of making videos on social media. And I feel like at the end of the day, it's just community building. That's what it is. That's what it boils down to. And it's marketing. Like, you need a great product still. And, you know, my views on marketing are still, like, kind of ambivalent. I've thought sometimes that marketing was so important. Sometimes I thought that if you simply have a good product, it's totally not important. Reality probably stands somewhere in the middle. But I don't like seeing all of these YouTubers, creators, that make their money by selling courses on how to make money by being a YouTuber. Like, that's, don't you see the don't you see the misalignment? Don't you see the contradiction in that? Because if it's such a lucrative career, why are you selling courses on it? Michael Jordan didn't sell courses on how to be a basketball player. Kanye doesn't sell courses on how to make beats. They make money through their actual influence. So the content economy has been poisoned lately by a lot of course sellers, a lot of people that have found it to be a way to make money, but have, I believe, polluted the whole ecosystem. And I think about a lot of problems that come with it. Like, first of all, there are these make money scammers. And I think they are pretty much the least harmful ones. Because there is so much more extremely painful, extremely awful and dangerous stuff. Like, so many fake doctors, so many like health experts, dietitians. If you're getting if you're getting health advice from YouTube, come on. And like all of these people selling supplements, all of these people selling diet plans, I feel like that is extremely scammy. And also the platforms have an incentive to promote the lie and the idea that, well, if you just post a lot of videos on the internet, you're gonna be famous and you're gonna make a lot of money. Because they fundamentally earn from you uploading content to their website, because then that content is gonna be used to train an AI model. At the end of the day, the platforms are by far king. Like, they rule and they dominate everything. And so I believe that this lie, is self-sustaining, and that if you come to believe that all of these people make so much money by just making stupid videos, then fundamentally, like, it's a way for the platforms to keep you in. But the content economy in itself, I don't think it's sustainable at all. And I think that it's poisoned with so many bad things, so many disgusting things that happen in it, and I just feel like it's totally misaligned. The content economy is a kind of economy that is fundamentally incompatible with humanity. I believe so. Okay, I think I want to watch maybe this. I don't know. Vibe coding can ruin your project.
Well, another day, another viral AI app built entirely with vibe coding. Yes, you no longer need to be a software engineer or even know how to program when you can rely solely on AI to create you a
I think it's fake.
possibly go wrong. Well, in today's story, we're going to find out with a great example. But if you're new to my channel, my name is Melkidev. I'm a senior software engineer over at Twitch, where is. Let's first start off with the definition of vibe. AI-dependent programming paradigm in the field of computer programming, where a person describes a problem in a few sentences as a prompt to a large language model, LLM, tuned for coding. The LLM generates software, shifting the programmer's role from manual coding to guiding, testing, definitely not, and refining the AI-generated source code.
Yeah, pretty much the whole thing the whole software development pipeline of building the software, then testing it, and then improving it can be, because of AI, just collapsed into a single person. That's true.
Programmers, remember that, to produce.
Yeah.
Not,
I mean, we don't really
my
know.
software as a service was built with Cursor, zero handwritten code. AI is no longer just an assistant. It's also the builder. Now
Let's go.
you can continue to whine about it or start building. P.S. Yes, people pay for it. What a
I think that the main thing that AI does is that it enables you to just think about the architecture, and so it makes shipping easier, I guess. I think it makes much easier the process of having your app completed, but still it requires, like, vibe coding probably replaces coders because you can just tell it like, hey, just write this function, but it doesn't replace software engineers. That's for sure. At least for now. Maybe in the future it won't.
great way to
It probably is on track to do that as well.
introduce people to vibe coding. Hey, I'm not skillful, I couldn't do it, but look, AI, Cursor, Windsurf, these are the tools you gotta use to start building. And look at this, you can see following up, even a day before, someone said, Cody Schneider, vibe coding going to get more non-technical people to 10K.
I love how dumb this video is gonna be because it's a reaction to a guy reacting to tweets.
MMR than all of the technical indie hackers combined over the last 10 years, which
Wow.
again, Leo, the protagonist of our story, you can't really build software as a service with AI. Nobody's going to pay for that. It will be full of bugs. LOL. Please, please, please remember the full of bugs part. It's going to be so nice when we go full circle. I can't imagine
That's
coding
true.
a fully functional software as a service with payments, webhooks, and background jobs without knowing how to code. I assume you are a coder and know how to fix things. I'm not a coder, and I can build a fully functional SaaS with payments, webhooks, DB, and auth in less than 24 hours without using a boilerplate. Ladies and gentlemen, this person is the LLM master. They say Tama when it comes to using LLMs. The master with Cursor. They say
I'm pretty sure this is gonna end badly.
Cursor account subscription already. This guy speaks in the language of prompting and getting results. Until
good.
earlier, March 17th, so 3 days after this legendary tweet here, Leo says, guys, I'm under attack. Ever since I started to share how I built my software as a service using Cursor, random things are happening. Maxed out usage on API keys. People bypass
Oh, this guy's so
creating random shit on database. As you know, I'm not technical, so this is taking me longer than usual to figure out. For now, I will stop sharing what I do publicly on X. There are just some weird people out there. You're telling me, hold on, Leo, you're telling me that the app that you built with zero programming knowledge, that you were solely relied on AI to generate, could be exploited, could be easily attacked.
Wow.
The subscriptions, the webhooks, what
Wow.
happened here? You could build this in 24 hours. I mean,
I think the main thing is cybersecurity is so much more important than code. Yeah, anybody can code, but cybersecurity is still a very elite field. So yeah.
look at this tweet. A fully functional app that has all those components in less than 24 hours. But here we are. You're getting absolutely bamboozled on Twitter, on X.
Oh my God.
And I absolutely love it. Not do I really care about people attacking the application and specifically DDoSing it. I think certain people that do that are, they don't really have much to do. But the fact that karma, the tech karma gods, were in full swing here is just a beautiful picture from beginning to the end. And I just love following the tweets here. 7:30 a.m. No sleep until is all fixed. Rolled all API keys and moved them to environment variables. Implemented authentication to API endpoints. You can see here
I think
the
the guy is
screen,
biased,
the prompts.
to be
Everyone's
honest.
working
I
overtime.
feel like, he's a developer, so he obviously has, I guess this is more of an emotional reaction to someone saying that your job can be automated. But I think that, at the end of the day, it's the 2080 rule. And right now, being able to write code is definitely much less valuable than it used to be. So, I mean, I think this guy's coping as well. This Leo guy, you know, he may be a little bit of a dick, maybe a little bit pretentious, but that's what the future looks like. I think that eventually we're gonna just build apps in what the fuck is it called? In Figma.
1128.
And you can just tell what you want the app to do, and it will just do it.
Still here. Modified course configuration to only allow requests from trusted domain. Let me just get this straight. This Chad of Chads was able to create a auth, DB, webhooks, and payments in less than 24 hours, but he lacked a few components. Now, what are those components? Well, he lacked, I guess, storing secrets in .env files or, API keys.
What a dumbass.
Did not set up cores to protect his server, and also did not have authenticated API endpoints or protected endpoints. Who needs this part, right? Who needs this stuff when you have this in less than 24 hours?
Yeah, I mean, that's extremely dumb. But that's like a skill issue, you see? Like,
I mean, it's almost like if somebody knew how to program, they'd be aware of these very simple, very obvious gotchas. But no, nowadays, we're all getting it replaced. This is just fugazi. You don't need this. This is caca. And all of this kind of brings me back to vibe coding and the topic of vibe coding. And really, the person who really popularized this is Peter Levels.io. So this very popular person on X, on Twitter.
I think that vibe coding brings with it a component of hype that is extremely dumb. Like, and also the person that popularized it is, Levels and also Karpathy. And both of them are pretty good coders, I would say.
A lot of different apps. He's like a solo entrepreneur, indie hacker, whatever you want to call him. And he went recently viral, famous again for the app he built, which is this kind of mind.
And again, like this is, so I think the vibe coding makes it easier to build side projects. It really makes it much quicker, much easier, much simpler. But, you can't really use it to build something serious.
Minecraft looking flying game, multiplayer online game where you can be like a plane and shoot other people, and there's like blips with ads, etc., etc. And he made the entire app with Cursor and other Claude AI LLMs. You can even see here this recent tweet: new Cursor and Claude 3.5 finally understand how to make a propeller. Before it made rotating mustache, now it's actually a prop. You can see here, he's proven by the virality of this game that he has no previous game dev experience. He does have programming chops, even before AI, he's built a lot of different things.
I mean, it's the cybersecurity that was lacking in that guy's SaaS
game with no game dev experience, solely off LLMs. And he kind of really made the term vibe coding popular, because he even said he just kind of vibe coded this entire application, and now it's making him something insane. Like if I go to his profile, 87,000 a month.
I think he's incentivized to lie.
You can see here's the game. It looks good. Like, I won't lie, this looks like a really fun game.
You would have never played.
Melky joined the game. I'll just pick this, Assessness.
You would never play this game.
And you can see here, I'm now in the game. I don't know how to play this game, but it looks like a game. It looks functional. And once I get it, I'm sure it's really loud. That was loud. So clearly there are examples of people leveraging the capabilities of AI to make really cool and really awesome things. However, the key difference is Levels has programming knowledge. He has programmed a lot of different things in the past. Some use a lot of AI help, some didn't use any AI help, right? And there's even this comment here that I found, a post on LinkedIn. This developer makes a 200 and thinks has to be written by AI, and you don't. Let me know what you guys think.
I think the narrative of developers being like this elite kind of breed of human is stupid. Simply because developers very, very rarely build stuff for themselves. I think that what really is gonna be super important going forward is philosophers, ideas, thoughtfulness, politics. It's getting increasingly more important. I think that this guy is making a good point of saying that, hey, if you want to build a SaaS and you want AI to help you out, you still need a lot of cybersecurity and security measures. Just hire someone on Fiverr and you can do it. I don't think you really need the programming experience that you needed a couple years ago even. I think that anybody can build an app right now, and I think that at the end of the day, what really matters is the idea behind it. And being a developer or not shouldn't be the key thing that separates the elite breed from the mediocre one. I think that it's more of an ideological standpoint. And this video is kind of biased, I would say, but it makes a okay-ish point of be aware when you launch stuff and don't just launch anything that an AI gives you. Maybe check it, make sure it works. Take a couple days more to make sure it's not vulnerable. But I think that Leo guy that built that SaaS and got it destroyed and vandalized, I think that he learned more than pretty much anybody. He's actually a winner out of this situation. So clowning him isn't wise. He learned a lot from this. Okay, let's see, what can we do now? Or more importantly, what should we do? Let me see. What do we want to watch? Let's see. This was this was such a stupid video, to be honest. I shouldn't have watched it. I shouldn't have watched this stupid ass video. You know. Okay. You know what? I don't mind this. I don't mind this camera at all. It's actually pretty good. We'll do a reaction on this so that it looks like it's a new guy. That's a new guy. That's a new guy. Yep. Or at least it's a new day. So, what do we want to watch? I'll just check my watch later stuff. At this point, I'm just polluting the landscape of social media, I would say. And I'm not sorry about it, to be honest. Like, it's just I think it's a struggle for power, social media. And oh yeah, we can look at this. So, I wanted to talk about this guy.
Sundar,
Okay. Okay, so this guy has been pretty famous lately because of his usage of AI in videos. And while I don't think it's anything revolutionary, because I mean, at the end of the day, what he's doing is just making very, very regular.
Jensen Huang just showed off Blue, a mini robot built in collaboration with Google DeepMind and Disney Research.
how are you doing? How do you like your new physics engine? You like it, huh? Yeah, I bet. Let's finish it up. We have another announcement to
It's not a revolutionary kind of thing. It's just the character of his, like him speaking, is not actually him. And that's pretty much it. And maybe he like writes the script with AI. But at the end of the day, this is again, I think AI washing it a lot. It's a cheaper way to make content because you don't need a studio, you don't pretty much need anything. Well, it's actually, yeah, it cuts a lot of costs when it comes to content creation. It makes it so much more of a way to make content without having to, put in the physical work, let's say. But I think that fundamentally this is like the problem with social media, to be honest. Like, social media at some point got overrun with people trying to sell stuff and people doing stuff not because they wanted to do it, not because they wanted to make these videos, but because of the financial incentives. And I'm not saying that's evil, I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm not saying that's not what you should do, because it's a job like any other, pretty much. But I think that this corporate way of making content is disgusting, and nobody really wants to watch it. Nobody really wants to, why would I watch this? Why would I watch this and not just go to the source myself? The fact that social media became such a corporate thing is bad, because well, it's a lot of things. The algorithm is one of them. The algorithm doesn't care about you. The algorithm only cares about keeping you in the platform for as long as possible. So that's something. And secondly, every message that you get from these platforms at this point is fundamentally manipulated by the fact that somebody is trying to sell you something, and that may be an idea. And I am responsible for this as well. I'm also selling my ideas, if I'm being honest. I'm also, looking for a following. I'm also all of these things. But I think that the honest and genuine kind of social media that we had up until maybe 2018 has left its place to a more corporate and more money-seeking social media that we have right now. And the fact that AI just cuts costs so much also means that we're going to see so much more content coming out. And it's not like you have more time or more attention. So the battle for this is going to be more and more fierce. And, I think that actually we are at a turning point in social media where the creators are going to make less money from now on, because the grifters have grifted. The lemon has been squeezed. So, social media is at a turning point. Social media will probably be depleted of people who don't care enough about it to not even put their face on. Like, if you're so lazy, if you don't care at all about making videos, and you only care about, just posting something, anything, why would people watch it? Why would people want to watch, your videos, if you treat them like a daily sort of just checklist element. I think that we've had this time of social media in which quantity was king, and I think we're gonna go back to quality. And these kinds of AI videos, I don't think they're gonna last long. AI provides a lot of amazing tools to make videos, but I think that this lazy approach is not the way, because people know that it's lazy. Like, people are not dumb. They know that this is a lazy grift. Why would I watch it? Awesome. Awesome. I mean, we've made 4 reactionary videos. Dope. Dope. That's awesome. Oh my god. Should we watch something else? Let's see. Is there even anything to watch now? I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. No, 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 no. I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know.
I switched from due dates to due date.
Oh my god. Okay. Oh. Okay. Let's watch this. So, I'll just grab a coffee real quick and maybe some water also. I'm kind of tired, but we got 4 videos. Let's see how many we can get to be honest. Maybe we can get to like 5 or 10. I don't know. Okay, so awesome. How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? Oh, let's go. Let's fucking go. Wow, nice work. Impressive, man. Oh, thank you, Niban. Sha 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 sha. Sha 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 sha. Okay.
This video is brought to you by Cook Unity. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire Upper Echelon community. Alright, it's been a while since I posted, and here's why. About 2 weeks ago, I published a video. That video was based on a social experiment I had attempted to run, which used exclusively AI-generated content, audio, visual, text, etc., in order to create a false identity for the sake of dispersing information as a sort of shock and awe style proof, if you will, about the imminent danger of human beings losing control of reality. That may sound hyperbolic, I get it, so let me explain. We are on the precipice right now of being unable to trust anything we ever see online.
That's
now,
true.
for some, that's already the case. Discerning and skeptical viewers may already adhere to a more rigid set of principles about seeing versus believing, but the reality is such that even now, our ability to see something and have any degree of confidence whatsoever in its authenticity based on merely looking at it is crumbling. There are, of course, a few different ways for the moment to go about
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
checking what is and is not true, though that will likely be outpaced because the ability to manufacture fake content will always outpace the ability to check what is real if the ability to fake things comes first, which it has, but that's a whole different rabbit hole to go down. That's probably what my job is about to become exclusively, as the world is all out consumed by the reckless pursuit of LLM, large language model prediction methods, but for the topic today, it's a bit more focused, having merely
Oh, and by the way, this is a video from 2023. So just imagine how much it could have like gotten better until now. Come on.
originated from that social experiment, not so much adhered to it as a core guiding principle. Here's a quick summary for the people that never watched the first video, though I would advise doing so for context if anyone is interested in the subject.
I'm not going to do so.
Generally speaking. My experiment revolved around crafting
Maybe I
a
will.
false identity with AI, but also crafting false metrics with botted social media accounts to create the appearance of authority.
Yep.
This went okay at first, but I rapidly began to see that the accounts I was purchasing were 100% artificially botted by what I now refer to as a directed bot network. That realization was fairly important because after becoming aware, I decided to track the network, sending me down a rabbit hole of teamwork, Twitter info scraping, modularity algorithms, and extensive research into the inner workings of Twitter botnet traffic, with what I personally believe are fascinating discoveries. The initial method of analysis was rather primitive, I do have to admit that. After buying a botted social media account and naming it Cynthia Talbot, or CynthBot for short, I created a research burner account which I used to follow all of the accounts that had been artificially directed at Cynthia Talbot in order to inflate her follower count. This worked in a very simplistic way, by allowing me to backtrack through the list of other followed accounts, thereby starting to create my own list of where this directed bot network had been individually pointed. For clarity, since the topic of online bot traffic is so wildly complex, a directed bot network refers to a large number of synchronized and totally artificial accounts, not real people, that are spun up, directed to a target, and told all of them to follow it. I started by analyzing more of the accounts where this bot network had been deliberately sent, but I started to realize that this was probably one of the least intuitive ways to gather any information, and I needed to step it up. Enter Shino. Shino is one of my Discord administrators and a long-time affiliate of the channel who showed me a process where accounts can be scraped and analyzed through the use of Twitter's API, after which they can be fed into a program called Gephi to analyze results and visually graph the composition of the botnet. Interactions, connections, overlapping data points, you name it. The process was actually very interesting and involved a couple different methods. On the one hand, we were gathering info with direct usage of Twitter's new API tools, having paid for them under the Upper Echelon business license. On the other hand, we also found that we could copy the authorization header value from a request to the version 1.1 API, which didn't have Elon's new artificially imposed rate limits. That might have a few serious security implications down the line, I'm not sure. But also, side note, Elon Musk has now made it exponentially more difficult and expensive to research anything like this, which is kind of super annoying.
Yeah, but also, like, most companies are safeguarding their data mainly because it's the most valuable thing they have to offer. And so, I mean, this is a indirect consequence. I think that maybe some fields should be allowed to have less impositions, so that this kind of thing can be easier. But like, scraping the data is pretty much taking from Twitter the most valuable thing it has.
That public key let us scrape followers, feed them into the modularity algorithm, and start mapping the bot network as well as secondary communities or industries that it touches. This is a game changer, it really is, and led us down a rabbit hole that seems to have now touched 4 separate industries: Indian politics, American politics, adult content, and crypto, which are...
Oh yeah, I mean, all of these are definitely full of scammers, grifters, and puppeteers.
overrun with either directed bot traffic or integrated bot traffic, also referred to here forward as echo chamber bot traffic. All in all, what we've found appears to be a nearly 10-year, widespread, democratically aligned blue wave propaganda network that was used in 2016, 2020, and is being spun back up right now for 2024 to once again flood social media, in this particular case Twitter, with enormous amounts of pro-democratic talking points, anti-opposition memes, and bolster the metrics of major DNC officials like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, also their spouses, as well as John Cooper, Hillary Clinton, and more. I know that's a really big
Oh my god, she looks so fake.
claim to make, but here we are. Hey, if you want to win, you gotta fuel like a winner. Shout out to everyone who got the reference. Today's video is sponsored alongside Garcia saying the values to stay current, especially going to the extensive work. Explore is fairly primitive, obviously. For this project, though, thanks to Shino, I was able to explore resources from the Indiana Observatory on Social Media, who has done extensive work cataloging, identifying, and defining social media bot activity with analytical tools for how to discover, organize, and evaluate the material. Social Bot Practicum for Computational Social Scientists, detection of novel social bots by ensembles of specialized classifiers, feature engineering for social bot detection, even the DARPA Twitter Bot Challenge are all very valuable resources to understand, among many others, but for the sake of simplicity, we decided to work with a combination of their tools and the methods I had already been using, successfully I might add, which led us to a pair of accounts. Before fully exploring, however, we need a clear-cut explanation of how all of this works. This right here is the visualized graph of Cynthia Talbot. The small white dots, not connected to one another in the slightest, are obviously pretty much all bots, directed to follow the account by whatever person or entity is in command of the centralized network. This is a directed bot network that has targeted hundreds, that we know of, more likely tens of thousands, of individual profiles and artificially inflated their follower count. Pretty straightforward, kind of a one-dimensional botnet. However, this right here is the graph produced by analyzing a different account named Zed Promoter. We didn't even go that far down this particular rabbit hole either, but the point is these bot networks have wildly different operational patterns. Some are directed, some are meshed together into a tightly packed ball where everyone knows everyone. Others have been targeted by multiple separate bot networks, as can be visually seen when they're graphed out, etc., etc. But the point is that social media bots are not as simple as many people believe. Keeping that in mind,
Okay. I wonder, other platforms like Instagram, YouTube, they probably have their own bot networks, like, as well.
we started really digging. Connected to our patient zero, if you will, Cynthia Talbot, who had been fully botted by a directed network, there were two additional accounts of note. One was called Marketer Tamzid, and the other Simba Golden 1. These accounts returned dramatically different network graphs, and Simba Golden 1 in particular is where we struck gold. This graph right here, the one constructed after analyzing Simba Golden 1 with the modularity algorithm and graphing it out in Gephi, this meshed amalgamation of colors here, was a brand new section of the network that had been fully integrated with Democratic-leaning politicians. It's actually kind of hard to condense everything that we found in a single video, but I'll try. Mapped by the modularity algorithm, different colors represent different communities, and as time went on, identifying and analyzing these communities with a replicatable method turned...
An interesting thing is, I remember that Trump and Biden had similar sort of levels of trending when you look them up on Google Trends. But I think I never saw a Biden meme or anything like that.
turned into a multi-stage research project.
And
As
I was
discussed earlier,
I was always wondering, like, who the hell is looking so much for Joe Biden?
infested, and when I say infested, I mean absolutely infested and overrun with botted traffic and followers, including American politics, Indian politics, which I didn't really analyze, but that's an interesting one, adult content, obviously, specifically Asian adult content, and crypto. For the adult content portion of the botnet, we stayed pretty far away from that one. Those accounts were, for the most part, baited fishing hooks. That's the best way to describe them. These accounts have been thoroughly botted from top to bottom with fake followers, posted a collection of non-original pornographic content from around the web, and contained altered URLs in their description that had been shortened to obfuscate their destination, their real destination. They use like bit.ly or whatever the URL shorteners are, some of which contained malware. That section is likely the most immediately dangerous area of the botnet, but for today's video, it's a place we mostly stayed away from. The area we ultimately ended up focusing our efforts was here. In order to consistently evaluate the accounts shown on this particular graph, we employed a variety of different tactics. Number one, evaluate the profile. What's the bio? What's the tweet activity look like? When is the tweet activity happening? And what was their first ever content posted? After that, we looked for significant gaps in their behavior. Any indications of the account having changed hands or been compromised, checked Social Blade, and also plugged the profile into the Indiana University identification tools. What we found was that the vast majority of these accounts are classified as echo chamber bots with 70 to 90% confidence by the Indiana Observatory, as well as nearly every single account analyzed tripping our own personal criteria, such as retweet spam to mask impossibly low engagement. When I say impossibly low, by the way, I mean impossibly low. 5, maybe 10 likes per original post with 50 to 100,000 supposed followers, all gained in the past couple of years. Similar retweeting patterns, tens of thousands of followed accounts, and suspicious gaps in activity. They're really tripping all of the different criteria to be categorized as bots. In fact, there were a multitude of tie-ins to what seemed to be very clear additional sections of bot network activity, but we did have to realistically limit the scope of where we looked owing to the sheer size and scale of the problem. Regardless, what we found was that there is a tremendous bot network that has now been spun up twice and is gearing up again. Many accounts already contain the Blue Wave 2024 hashtags, it's all over, and bio descriptions similar to the past 2 cycles. It's being spun up again for the 2024 election. To be clear, if anyone were to be somehow uncertain about the accuracy of these results,
I wonder why it didn't come out earlier. Like 2016 and 2020, it was pretty obvious.
Here's a direct side-by-side comparison. The orange and red are integrated bots with between 70% and 91% confidence that focus on political, adult, or crypto themes, bolstering an entire community of false activity. And the blue examples are real people that I personally know on Twitter and can say with certainty are real people. Big Fry, a YouTuber, Kira TV, Callum Upton, Josh Strife Hayes, Nicholas Diorio, Even Aria Realty, the most brain-dead person I've ever met in my life and a supporter of Earth 2 of all things, comes back as clearly human. Not to be relied on exclusively, these bot prediction tools are useful, but the size and scale of these networks, combined with a current push by Elon Musk to apparently lock down and paywall as much of the platform as possible, make it difficult, expensive, and time-consuming to analyze. Perhaps one of the most straightforward examples I can show here is an account named Big Blue Wave USA, which is a central target of bot network traffic, and when I say central, I mean it's very central to the bot network traffic, alongside former Democratic administration official John Cooper. Big Blue Wave USA, as obvious as it is, right on the nose, also has 5 identical backup accounts ready to spin up at any point in time, and aggressively, constantly pushes DNC propaganda. Now, in the interest of being unbiased here, viewers might say, well, it's not propaganda because it's true, and all Republicans are evil, which is a perfectly fine opinion to hold. But on the flip side, John Cooper, another central figure propped up by this enormous integrated bot network, has routinely put out false information, made up facts, and polluted the value of Twitter discourse with fake news that is then propelled to a massive audience through the largest bot network I've ever seen. The pattern is extremely obvious. Disinterested or possibly apolitical individual accounts all at once, either in the lead up to 2016, 2020, or even now, make a sharp pivot and begin posting exclusively retweets, only DNC favored political content, and amplifying a select set of high-ranking DNC officials and Democratic politicians all at the exact same time. While doing
Wow. It's crazy how subtle it is.
so, they trip almost every single echo chamber bot warning imaginable from third-party sources and evaluation tools, as well as the criteria we developed ourselves, creating an enormous spiderweb of interconnected but largely inauthentic accounts that are likely managed by real people somewhere up the line, but operate more as propaganda foot soldiers in a public relations campaign than actual humans. Here's the thing though. I can't claim with any degree of absolute certainty that this bot network, as far as it goes, has measurably impacted our presidential elections. But what I can do is draw a few connections. In the aftermath of 2020, despite winning the presidency, the Democratic political machine was left picking up the pieces in the wake of a, go figure, blue wave that never crested. There's a big blue wave coming that will wipe away the Republicans, posted by The Hill on July 12th of 2020. These kinds of titles were abundant and certain, right up until the very moment that they were completely wrong. What happened to the big blue wave? Where did it go? Theories on why this mirage might have been differ dramatically, but I would like to posit that a massive bot network of falsified social media traffic contributed, at least in part, to a sort of grassroots blue wave atmosphere on social media by design, which ultimately caught the party by surprise in some capacity when the movement failed to materialize with as much tenacity and zeal as the bots were able to manufacture. I can't necessarily prove that, and even if it were to be true, it would be far from the only causal factor in play, but the reality is that tens of thousands of highly sculpted and artificially propped up political Twitter accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers millions of followers between them, some of them with hundreds of thousands individually, are integrated into the democratic political community of social media, very integrated, at the highest possible level, with a clear and intentional design that uses them every couple of years to push mass levels of propaganda and DNC talking points as far as possible on the platform. Now, this just needs to be said. I am extremely confident that there will be a Republican version of this bot network somewhere out there on social media. Maybe Twitter, maybe Facebook, I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I find it impossible to believe that just the Democratic
It's almost like Twitter just flipped sides, and now it's the exact same thing, but for the Republicans.
propaganda machine uses this technique, in a world where social media is one of the central pillars behind American politics. It seems obvious to me that both sides engage in this type of behavior somewhere down the line. I just happened to tap into this particular part of the network first because that's where my entry point was closest to. I'll keep searching. We very likely will find the GOP version of this and be able to analyze it, but for right now, what you see is what you get. It's important for us to remember not all of these people are bots. Some of them, very few of them, but some of them are just human NPCs who regurgitate whatever political messaging they see and agree with. But the probability here is that a significant portion of specifically blue wave political accounts are manufactured.
Oh my God.
And yes, only 37% of my own audience these days even reside in America, but all of us that do reside here should be aware that the social media landscape is dominated by bot networks that are remarkably good at passing for human already, or, well, On the surface they are, and will only improve with time, making it more essential than ever to be aware of what is and is not real.
Imagine if you
I wanna go to the moon. Don't leave so soon, don't leave so soon. Nothing I can do. Here we go, strapping weight up. Never forget all the memories.
Everybody was talking about DeepSeek. It wiped tens of billions from the stock market, and Everybody was talking about DeepSeek. It wiped tens of billions from the stock market and asserted China's growing dominance in AI, completely disrupting the tech world. But the more you look into this whole DeepSeek situation, the more you realize there's some very serious questions that need answering. Why was DeepSeek revealed just after the recently revealed $500 billion Stargate project? How is it actually possible that out of nowhere this unknown AI could use far less resources and undercut all of American AI? And who was actually behind this, and what is their real goal with this stuff? Well, after you've watched this video, you'll start to see that maybe DeepSeek
It's very, very suspicious.
But on the surface, DeepSeek was established by the Chinese hedge fund High Flyer. Like any other Silicon Valley type story, it was a company from supposedly humble beginnings, as High Flyer made its name through high frequency trading, essentially only making money from exploiting price inefficiencies across global markets. And soon they started working on prediction models that could find short-term price movements faster than competitors. After a few years of successful trading, they decided to move into the world of AI, as this was the hot new topic, as every new iPhone, laptop, and even washing machine had some sort of AI involved. So in 2023, they established an artificial general intelligence lab dedicated to research developing AI tools, and later that year, the lab became its own company that we now know as DeepSeek. Over the next year or so, DeepSeek developed a few AI programs and started causing problems for American tech giants. Its first model, DeepSeek version 2, forces competition to lower their prices to stay in the game. The prices got so low that while DeepSeek was still making a profit, other companies were suffering heavy losses. And yet the company was more interested in research than commercializing its product. So the question in everyone's mind was, how is this possible? There were then a few other programs, but none of them made too big of a splash in mainstream media. People realized China was coming for the AI industry, but little did they realize how advanced China's AI systems really were, until the beginning of 2025. Near the beginning of January, DeepSeek R1 debuted on Apple's App Store. It was an AI system designed to function similarly to OpenAI's ChatGPT, and in the next 2 weeks afterwards, it received so many downloads that it successfully booted ChatGPT from its spot as the most downloaded AI assistant. As unlike ChatGPT, DeepSeek R1 uses chain of thought reasoning. It doesn't just spit out an answer at you, but shows its process, breaking it down section by section so that you can understand how it's getting to its answer. These models can handle complex multi-step problems better than traditional language learning models, which was even more of a shock considering that back in 2023, America had taken steps to prevent China from getting its hands on AI chips, specifically Nvidia's H800 and A800 chips. It restricted the exportation of these products and encouraged its allies in Europe and Asia to do the same, doing everything they could to completely squash China's ability to have a booming AI industry, which completely completely frustrated the already strained Chinese government to no end, especially when their own AI programs were so disappointingly lackluster. Supposedly, DeepSeek didn't let the limitations of a smaller GPU capacity stop it, which led the stock market to wonder what DeepSeek would be capable of if given access to more resources. The possibility that AI might be able to operate with less power-hungry processors caused tech giants to panic. Even though people like Elon Musk announced this, saying they must have the chips and are probably just hiding it due to the trade embargoes, panic would only worsen when it came out that DeepSeek R had been developed in only 2 months with a budget of $5.5 million. And if investors saw that AI could be
That's a lie for sure.
China, then they would need to park their money elsewhere, and that's exactly what they did. On the 27th of January, as news about DeepSeek's success made the rounds, the stock market completely crashed. BlackRock's ETFs, specifically targeting tech companies, massively plummeted. In just a few hours, tech companies like Nvidia's market value dropped by almost $593 billion as its shares fell by 17%. It was a one-day loss record for Wall Street. It was almost double the previous record, which funnily enough was also set by Nvidia. However, it wasn't just AI-focused tech companies suffering the losses. Infrastructure is a major factor behind the development of AI, and tech companies need to ensure that they have enough power for their data centers. As such, people started investing in energy companies, expecting that demand to increase as AI development continued. However, with DeepSeek, it showed that the energy demands might not be actually needed in the future, and future tech companies really might not need so much power. Just like how the original computers used to take up an entire room, and now we can just use far more advanced computers with the tap of a finger, could potentially mirror the energy consumption needed with AI. So apart from investors losing money, why does any of this actually matter? Well, it goes far beyond just AI itself, and more towards a tipping scale in geopolitical power. Just as Trump announced a major $500 billion AI venture dubbed Stargate, all to level up the AI infrastructure.
Yeah, I think it's mainly a politics kind of thing. Fundamentally because, well, the kinds of things that AI is going to do next are essential for the states. So it's sort of like the space race, like getting to the moon before the other country gets there. I think that it's all about this.
Structure in the US, DeepSeek stuck a sword in their side at exactly the right time, almost suspiciously timed. With the US looking like it had the very clear lead in the AI war, DeepSeek proved that no matter what the US tries to do to hold China back from the AI industry, they're an enemy that shouldn't be ignored at all, in almost the exact same way as the space race did. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite to orbit Earth, and it forced America to rethink space dominance. And similarly, DeepSeek forces the AI giants in the US to rethink their grip on innovation. And this is the perfect moment for China, whose economy is in shambles right now, to finally grab the spotlight from America, just as TikTok seems to be banned at the same time.
Okay.
Security risk, DeepSeek could be on a whole other level. Knowing the amount of data that goes through ChatGPT about every single person around the world, what could this look like in the hands of the Chinese government? I mean, the app clearly follows CCP-imposed restrictions, something that was made very evident by its refusal to discuss sensitive topics like Tiananmen Square, as it flat out refuses to say anything bad regarding China as a whole. And with millions of Americans immediately downloading this app to their devices, it just showed the potential of what AI under the CCP's control could look like in the future, something the US government is trying to avoid with drastic measures. Already, the US government is in many ways labeling this a potential security risk, with the White House press secretary explaining that the
This music is very, very enticing, I have to say.
National Security Council is reviewing the app's implications.
As for the national security implications, I spoke with NSC this morning. They are looking into what those may be, and when I have an update, I will share it with you, Mike.
However, the biggest impact this will have is on AI itself, as DeepSeek R1 has changed the AI industry as we know it. But the real question is, was all of this planned? And if so, why is this being done? Well, to understand this, we first need to ask, where did DeepSeek actually come from? Not just the surface level story. So where did DeepSeek actually come from? Of course, the story that first started circulating was your classic underdog tale. Some random geniuses working for some no-name company made a better version of ChatGPT, all for a tiny fraction of the cost. The news coming out at pretty much the exact same time as OpenAI announced a $500 billion investment in data centers only made things so much worse. Like most of these things, the story was built on a mixture of truths and half-truths. The ludicrously small $6 million cost is a good example. This figure comes from the 2048 high-end GPUs that DeepSeek used to train their model. Calculating the cost per hour for the GPUs over the 2 months they spent training the AI model is where this comes from. While it is massively lower than OpenAI's costs, it still doesn't factor in for the man hours, the infrastructure they needed to develop the thing and everything else. The idea of DeepSeek being this product as some graduate engineers working out of some basement is also false. While it's a relatively new and small company as far as AI goes, it's still a fully integrated arm of China's larger tech industry. DeepSeek itself is a subsidiary of a Chinese hedge fund called Highflyer, whose co-founder Lian Wangfing also founded DeepSeek as an LLM-focused offshoot of the main company. With 9.4 billion in assets under management by the main hedge fund, it's not a small company by any means. Highflyer itself is also an AI company. Founded in 2016 by Lian and 2 of his fellow graduates, the firm began trading using AI algorithms to play the Chinese stock market. By being one of the most effective funds on the scene, they grew incredibly quickly. Even early on in their history, their returns were reportedly 20 to 50% higher than other funds. In one of the rare interviews they've actually given to the public, last year the CEO said that their success didn't lie in specific techniques or stratagems. Instead, it was all down to their research and how they generally use the data. Being ahead of the curve meant they could exploit gaps in other training algorithms and pounce on gaps in the market. To do this, of course, they needed a lot of data infrastructure and some insanely powerful supercomputers.
Yeah, they already had a huge data ecosystem, that's for sure. You can't develop AI without a huge data handling cluster of mega computers. And these guys are, when you develop an algorithm that is meant to establish the value of a company, that requires a technical and just an infrastructure that is so important that looks kind of similar to that of what developing large language models look like.
For example, they unveiled a computer they called Fireflyer 1, which costs around $28 million. Just 1 year later, they built the second version, which cost 5 times as much, and since then they've only gotten more powerful and more expensive. You can expect DeepSeek had access to this infrastructure when they made their LLM. Even if the machine they built it on was relatively weak, it's pretty doubtful to say they didn't use their parent company's massive amount of data and computing power, while building a model that especially needs all of that. Still, what they made outperforms ChatGPT on some key levels, all while being far more efficient in how much computing power and energy it uses. It's a nightmare for OpenAI, of course, who have both praised the model whilst also alleging that they stole their data and their intellectual property to make it. It's quite a rich and hypocritical accusation coming from them. OpenAI pretty much stole and copied the entire internet to make their model, so there won't be many people shedding tears now they've gotten a taste of their own medicine. It also puts into doubt the need for the $500 billion investment into AI that OpenAI had been so excited about. In an interview conducted on the 22nd of January with the Wall Street Journal, OpenAI's product chief was completely certain about how much the industry needed. In the first minutes of the interview, he emphasized their importance with these words.
I mean, literally everything that we see is that the more compute we apply, the better our models get, and we don't see that tailing off. And so we want to make sure that we have enough compute to do what we think is going to be necessary to build products for everybody around the world.
Yeah, that's definitely the case.
The only deciding factor, and throwing more money at the same problem isn't the ultimate solution. Especially when some Chinese hedge funds can make a better version as a side project, it doesn't look good anymore. But like with many Chinese apps, not everything is as it seems with DeepSeek. Although the company makes some extremely bold claims on how it was created and how it currently works, many are still questioning the reality of the situation. According to the CEO of Scale AI, one of the largest AI companies in the world, there's reason to believe DeepSeek have intentionally lied about their use of NVIDIA GPUs since it would prove they haven't followed US export restrictions. The Scale AI CEO personally believes that they've been using 50,000 NVIDIA H100 chips, but employees are told to keep quiet about this fact.
You know, the Chinese labs, they have more H100s than people think. You know, and
these are the highest powered NVIDIA chips that they were not supposed to have.
Yes. My understanding is that DeepSeek has about 50,000 H100s, which they can't talk about, obviously, because it is against the export controls that the United States has put in place. And I think it is true that, I think they have more chips than other people expect, but also on a go-forward basis, they are going to be limited by the chip controls and the export controls that we have in place.
And its $6 million cost is simply impossible. scale. Each NVIDIA H100 costs over $25,000, making the GPU cost over billions alone. And while this hasn't been confirmed, Elon Musk also said it's obvious. But even if this is true, it still downplays everything about how DeepSeek R1 works, and it begs the question if DeepSeek is indeed
I mean, maybe they meant like 6 million in just the training cost without the hardware.
using NVIDIA chips, maybe NVIDIA stock prices should have gone way up and not down. While this whole thing has been awful news for NVIDIA, OpenAI, and a ton of other American companies, it's great news for China, because whenever a Chinese tech company gets big enough, the Communist Party takes notice as it gets larger. They then get more and more involved with the management of all of it. Small startups operate under the radar and are free to innovate, while the big whales like Tencent, ByteDance are pretty much just arms of the state. If DeepSeek
I mean, I think that's probably gonna be the case also in the US. Like Google and Microsoft are most definitely deeply tied with the US government.
takes off, which it already has, then it will be taken over by the CCP soon enough. It's an inevitability, which is great news for China's economy, of course. They're decades into a massive population crisis. Growth has been leveling off for years because the working population is slowly getting older and birth rates are far below maintenance levels. So far, Xi's reaction to this has been to encourage insanely long working hours to squeeze everything he can out of the people. Even with Chinese government agents going around door to door, making sure people are having enough babies. Everyone
Really?
knows that a decline is coming though, and it's led to a hugely toxic atmosphere across China, especially with the looming trade tariffs that Trump's going to impose. If they're going to support their aging population, deal with US sanctions, and a general lethargy taking over their entire economy, they'll have to be at the top of the pile when it comes to technology. And while they've been catching up for a few years, this new development shows they're finally beginning to pull ahead of the US. In many ways, it's the only thing that can really save China from suffering the same fate that Japan has dealt with. Decades of near recessions and very little growth. The US knows this as well, and they've been incredibly quick to make the same moves they've been making when other Chinese apps take off, especially when they try to outcompete American ones. The US Navy has already banned DeepSeek for its service people, citing security issues.
Why would the Navy use DeepSeek?
Whether this app is actually spying for China or not is really unknown right now, but the mere suggestion plays right into the US's hands and helps to reverse the hundreds of billions that got wiped off the Nasdaq.
So at the end of the day, they just lied about the capabilities of their training like computers. That's all. That's the lie. I mean, I think the model is pretty good, but I feel like they need to make something better than OpenAI's models. Then we can talk about this. Then we can talk about DeepSeek being a strong candidate for AI dominance. Right now, what they did is they built a pretty good and very cheap model. But yeah, I like DeepSeek, but I've not used it so much after that initial couple weeks. It's like the hype wore off, and the whole model was, the vibes of the model were given by the hype pretty much. And so now that it's not hyped as much, it's no longer interesting. Also because, I mean, they forced a lot of US companies like Google, like OpenAI itself, like Claude, to up their game, and they upped their game, and now we have a lot of great models, and they're cheap, and pretty much everybody released their thinking models. And so they actually just made it quicker for the US to develop their stuff. And this is kind of a recurring thing with China lying about their stuff, and then the US innovating it so much, pushed by Chinese propaganda. Yeah, that's dope. Okay, I'm kinda, so how many videos are we at? I'll just start uploading everything, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. So what should we do now? What should we do now? What should we do now? I'll just do some talked videos, I guess. Because reacting is sort of expensive in terms of energy. Like, it's really expensive. It's really, you know, you gotta watch stuff and you gotta, like, reactors are not, nobody talks about how hard reactors have it, you know? Wow. But yeah, I just think I need to figure out how to, like, fucking... Let's see if there is anything else that I want to watch. I don't think so, to be honest. Also, I've watched, like, so much of this stuff. We've been live for 2 hours, so...
I have to finish writing this paper. I'm swamped.
Just get Grammarly.
Why not react?
Conceal the absence.
Wow. Yeah, this actually feels like a amazing video, to be honest. Wow. Yeah, let's watch this. Feels extremely interesting. Extremely interesting.
Step into any busy street, and you'll find yourself surrounded by a theater of performances.
I don't know
The
if
suited
this is AI.
professional strides with purpose, the rebel wears their leather armor of defiance, and the socialite posts carefully curated smiles for an invisible audience. Modern life is an endless masquerade, and like seasoned actors, we grow so accustomed to our roles that we forget we are performing at all. We act confident when we are unsure, empathetic when we are indifferent, or rebellious when we simply crave attention. Each mask serves its purpose, helping us navigate the demands of relationships, careers, and social expectations. Because of this relentless performance, we risk becoming hollow, a puffed-up bag of clothes as Nietzsche described it. For Nietzsche, this
So the mask is a tool to a means.
isn't just a metaphor for insincerity, it's a diagnosis of a deeper malaise. The modern individual is a surface without depth, a restless actor endlessly shifting between masks to conceal the absence of a guiding instinct.
Wow.
This isn't to say that masks are inherently bad. In fact,
I mean, masks initially are a way to amplify what's within.
they are inevitable. Without them, we could scarcely function. But when the mask fuses with the face, when we believe the role we play is the essence of who we are,
Yeah.
we lose the capacity to explore the many facets of our being.
Exactly.
Or worse still, we may become prisoners of our roles, mistaking our most polished performances for authenticity.
Oh yeah, you get
Society
enveloped
encourages
by
this delusion, rewarding conformity and punishing deviation. So we parade about in 100 masks, proud of the comedy but blind to the tragedy.
Yeah, I think that social media plays into this, especially social media algorithms with what they incentivize. I think that allowing people to get views and likes for certain things is definitely something that empowers these masks
Nietzsche describes
and gives them a hold over the people behind them. That's
the modern self not as a singular entity, but as a fragmented one. Within us exists a multitude of personas, each crafted for specific contexts with its own voice and purpose.
Yep.
Yet out of fear or inertia, we often cling to a single mask, letting it overshadow our inner complexity.
wow.
As William James writes in Principles of Psychology, properly speaking, a man has as many social selves as there are individuals who recognize him and carry an image of him in their mind. He generally shows a different side of himself to each of these different groups.
Yeah.
From this there results what practically is a division of the man into several selves.
Wow.
The modern individual is little more than a totally exterior surface, with no kernel, a tattered, daubed, puffed-up bag of clothes. Out of laziness and fear, we mask our individuality with veils that conform to societal norms, leaving us as nothing more than these puffed-up facades. This puffed-up bag of clothes metaphor describes the performative nature of our existence. Many people adopt and discard roles and personas as if rummaging through a worn-out bag of tricks. Day after day, they cycle through the same tired acts, lacking originality or authenticity. In this context, the mask serves as a facade to hide a weakened personality in the modern individual. This diminished self reflects a lack of robust instincts, driving people to rely on deception to project the illusion of an extraordinary life, something more compelling than a mediocre identity. Beneath all this artifice, many are simply too afraid to reveal who they are.
I think that there is a strong fear that guides people to not recognize pain or inferiority. Like, nobody wants to feel weak, and thus we mask our weakness.
No one any longer dares to show his person, but masks himself as a cultured man, a scholar, a poet, a politician.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Individuals lacking strong inner instincts to guide their lives often turn to history or social groups to learn how to act.
Oh yeah, it's like you find this well-defined sector of human endeavors where you are comfortable to stay and you're like, awesome, I'm this, and I'll be this forever, and nobody can take this away from me.
The mask, in this case, compensates for the absence of a guiding life force.
I still wonder if this is AI, the voice. I can't fully make that out.
Of the instincts to naturally direct one's life. As Nietzsche elaborates, he thus gradually becomes an actor and plays a role, indeed many roles usually, which is why he plays each one so badly.
Oh my god. Okay, I think that we've streamed enough reactions. We've watched a lot of stuff. This video gave, and the problem is, like, you don't need a 20-minute video on all of this shit, you know. Video essays have grown redundant. I think video essays have lived their time, especially because nowadays video essays can be replicated with AI. And so nobody really wants to watch video essays, I believe. Or at least, I don't think that people want to watch 20-minute long video essays or
doing so, we become simultaneous.
Or anything like that, unless you're fundamentally sure that there is a person behind the channel. And so one thing that I see emerging from this is the comeback of orators, of people speaking, because like we humans crave a real connection, and this is one of my favorite channels lately, Michael Segru. I don't know if that is pronounced correctly, but this man has his these are recordings from a long time ago, I think the early 1990s, and he's a awesome professor who teaches about history and philosophy mainly, and he's an awesome orator. He was, but yeah, I love his channel. I think that his channel has so much wisdom and so much knowledge, and I see channels like these with long lectures, long spoken, well-spoken individuals gaining a lot of traction. I think that, you know, obviously live streaming is a way to keep authenticity in social media, But yeah, social media has been lacking in the past few years. A lot of authenticity. Sometimes it's because we've been creating for algorithms and not for people. Sometimes because the messages got corrupted by maybe politics, maybe greed, maybe other stuff. But fundamentally, I think that social media loses its authenticity over time. It's like it gets faker and faker until it inevitably gets real again. And I feel like we're at a point where social media is about to get real again. But anyway, I don't know if I want to do anything else. What should we do? What should I do? What should we do? Well, maybe I'll react to this guy sometime soon. I don't know. I think that we've done enough. I think the live has been long enough, 2 hours. That's a lot of time. Yeah. I think the live is over. Thanks to everybody who watched. And we're gonna do sometime soon again.